Hello, my name is Roger Schroeder. I'm an instructor in the School of Architecture and Design at Alfred State University, and I'll want to discuss with you a little bit about the poster that I produced. I've been a consultant in the past with rigidized metals and Boston Valley terracotta, so I've developed a real strong interest in facades. And this has been a project of mine for the recent year or few years, is looking at the idea of an articulating facade, in this case a metal facade, curved formed, that can control the aperture of the opening and the light that comes through any facade element. And with that basis of discovery was the idea that you could actually, I had worked with metals and curve forming them, rigidly curve forming them, and it occurred to me one day that you could actually hinge those to move out of that that linear idea of hinging and into the idea that that geometry could be curved. And with that came a whole lot of fascinating new opportunities for the strength and dynamics that would happen when we were both curving the geometry into these kind of conical shapes for actually strengthening thin materials. One of the challenges I had was how I would articulate that in a simple way to make this a cost-effective type of facade element. So I've done some experiment with the idea of a kind of a tensegrity system, a cabled system that both tensions the leaves of the facade in order to keep them stabilized in the wind, and then allows them to be operable via a stepper motor. So these are some images of some 3D printed stepper motors, components, and the articulating cable system that manipulates the facade. So on this idea of opening and closing of the facade, the idea of modulating light, in this case, this specific design, I looked at how much light could actually be modulated, and there was about a 55% ability to change from full open to full closed. Obviously, some of the facade is still obscuring the front vision glazing. I didn't want to limit anyone's thinking about this to one form or shape, so I've done a little bit of experiment with modeling in Revit to create different kinds of curve forms that would still operate on mostly the same principles. And I've done some studies, light studies with the BIM modeler and trying to develop accurate curve form surfaces so we could do some light studies on that with different variations in the shapes and types of panels that would be used. And on stepping back a little bit, one of the ideas of a dynamic facade is the idea of the building being dynamic and responsive to the user. And an offshoot of that is to think about the idea of the user being able to manipulate that facade via an app, possibly mediated model with that of real-time environmental data and concerns for heating and cooling loads on the building. And so the building, whether it be a residence or an office building, may have the ability to have a user input and control over the facade. Thank you for listening.